Are you sick of your fear stopping you from simply exploring? So many of us are feeling the pressure to make money nowadays, and with the current cost of living crises, who can blame us? We're all shooting ourselves into an early grave. We should create a YouTube channel. We should create a podcast. We should set ourselves up on all of the social media channels and influence like crazy. Set sidelines up on top of our day jobs. Find niches, investigate monetization, and optimize for the dollar like crazy. But what if we tried doing something just to try it out? Let me kick this video off with a request. Please give your mouse click or a finger press on this channel's subscribe button. It'll help this channel get more attention, and which will in turn give me more impetus to improve the quality of these videos and find out what works for all of us. Look at these dazzling morning rays. Are they not spectacular? Hello there, my name is Rob, and my life has certainly been interesting since I last did a video here, which was that Tron Runner gameplay video from 4 years back, so that would have been 2020, I think. So let me wind it back a little bit more to the couple before, which were my brief attempts to live stream all the way back in 2018, 6 years ago now. In between, two pretty major things have happened. My wife Vicky passed away in early to mid 2019. A couple of years later, I sold our house in Cairns and moved back to Sydney after 18 years away, and that was in August of 2023, pardon me. So this particular story, of which I intend to make this video about, kicks off at the start of May, about 2 months after my dog and I, Sookie, moved from a friend's house in the Blue Mountains, a lovely, picturesque, if a little bit chilly part of the Sydney surrounds, to this rented granny flat in Sydney's southwest. I woke up early one morning, my head abuzz. You might have heard of an online musician by the name of Jonathan Coulton. He once described a few years back a creative challenge that he set himself to avoid procrastination and keep doing the grunt work bits of creativity. He called it the Thing a Week project. Coulton levered the internet to hold him accountable, and each week he would publish a musical item, short or long, no matter the quality. I believe he called it, he likened it to a writerly habit of sitting down in front of the keyboard and making the clackety noise, just getting into that habit of parking your ass at the place where you're going to do some work and start working for the sake of it. I found myself at the time fixed on this idea. My mind was filling with thoughts purely for online content for creating's sake. You know, a thing a week project of my own that would get me making and posting stuff. I filled pages of an A4 notebook to get it all out of my head and onto something concrete and visible. But when I finished writing, I found myself asking, why? The fixation had vanished, and in its place was this sense that I was driving myself too hard. I was turning creativity into a rod for my own back after making two major changes in geography and residence in the space of a year. I wasn't ready or willing to do something public. I wanted to find some personal joy in life and give that a bit of time. So for a while, I occupied myself with painting miniatures. It's a great little hobby that I could just do on my own without needing to involve anyone else or having any external expectation. You can probably see just behind me here, I have some boxes for the Infinity science fiction skirmish miniatures line, a wonderful sleek future with some very cool looking troopers and other stuff in it. And I love the O12 faction, kind of like the Interstellar United Nations / peacekeeping force. And I got around half of the miniatures that I've got for that faction done to a standard that I was pretty much happy with. Before I kind of ran out of steam, I did try working on the alien Shazvastii miniatures in this main box set, which I'm now going to pull out and just, you know, kind of show off a little bit. Let's turn it around. I feel like I should have gone and got some of the miniatures that I was working on, but I got 3 of them painted and I had 4 to go. And yeah, the idea just sort of ran out of steam. I lost my enthusiasm for it a bit. So again, rather than flog myself, I thought, all right, well, let's put this aside and work out what else is next. Beyond that, there was also an approaching personal deadline that I'd set myself. I'm coming up on 10 years at my current employer, and it's basically been kind of an entry-level position for various reasons. Some within my control, some outside my control. And the thought was that once I get long service, maybe I start exploring what else is out there for me. I still wouldn't mind a job where I can work from home, basically because of my other creative limitation. Let me just remember where I've put this camera. So I've got a mark, and let me... Once it gets untangled, here we go. There she is. Hey, Sook. Hello. Hi. Say hello to everyone on the internet, Waffle. She's not impressed. Maybe? No. Not impressed. So yeah, I have been working from home, thankfully, to my current employer. Very grateful for that. Since early 2022, and it means I've been able to look after this little woof for a lot. She's gone from getting walked once a day in the morning to twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening. Not mention having my company for lunches, which she's always keen to cadge something off me. So there's this idea that I would still like to work from home for, the majority of days per week, just to make sure that she's okay and, she doesn't wind up doing anything silly around this place while I'm at work. It's not mine, for God's sake. So that kind of became a bit of an impetus for me. There is also the thought that because, in a way, I've been earning an entry-level wage for 20 years, including the job that I worked in Cairns before my current one, that I wanted to change my financial circumstances. I want to make sure that come old age and retirement, if anybody actually gets to retire nowadays, I would have enough money to support myself. Another thing that came up just recently, if you're familiar with me and my online presence, you'll know that I've created a couple of podcasts in my time. The first one was the Paid to Play podcast, which I did between 2012 and 2017. And that was an aspirational one. It was about chatting with people who'd taken the things that they love doing and turned them into incomes. I set that aside for a few reasons, in part because I didn't feel like I was walking the talk, and also because my late wife's health was declining, and I just wanted to focus on things that would give me some social support when I was spending my off-work hours making sure that she was okay. And I also did Only in Death, which was an actual play tabletop role-playing game podcast with a bunch of mates online, playing the Deathwatch role-playing game in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I also got to be the host of Podcast Bay, the podcast, and I did that on a freelance basis as well. I was actually paid to find and chat with guests for that show. So I do like conversation, I do enjoy doing it, and of course I do get people telling me how I ought to start another one, but given the amount of work that is involved in creating and publishing and promoting a show solo, I would tell people who told me that I would only do so if an idea that was big enough grabbed me and wouldn't let me go. At the end of July this year, inspiration struck. I was thinking about my situation, and I thought, surely I can't be the only late 40-something in this position, looking at their life and going, I need to make a change, and not just that I want to make a change, but I actually need to do things differently than the way I've been doing them up till now, or else I won't be able to sustain my existence. The idea struck. Do a podcast about it. Look at my situation. Reach out to people who either are in the same shoes or have been because they've changed their circumstances, and also the people who have the skills and energy and ability to help people like us. It was definitely a powerful idea. It resonated with a bunch of interested guests when I pitched in a podcasting group, and I started working on it, and I recorded about 6 episodes, and as I went, I discovered that as much as the idea was a solid one. It didn't really have enough of me in it. I began flavouring the questions with ideas from science fiction shows that I enjoyed, most notably Babylon 5. And I found myself having to explain them to my guests who may have had a passing familiarity with sci-fi and most likely no awareness of a show from the 90s. The dissonance got a bit too much, and I decided to put the show on hiatus until I could develop the idea further, kind of work out how to blend it more with the me that has stayed most consistent, the me that loves sleek futures and cool machines, always have. I mean, I think I've gone into detail about how Star Wars came out on the year that I was born, and how, I was marinating in that and in Battlestar Galactica, in the Star Trek movies that started coming out shortly after Star Wars. In Tron, of course, in 1982, and then the bloody Transformers came out right when I turned 7. So all of this wonderful stuff, I think, it grabbed me and it wouldn't let me go. And I wanted to not keep that as a back burner. It's a primary part of my flavour, so I feel like it ought to be my flavour in everything I do. I just couldn't work out how to sell that in terms of a podcast concept. And while I was thinking about that, there was always this thing, again, in the back of my mind that I needed to do something, set up a sideline, start investing in my future, maybe engage a coach, all these kind of things. To someone who I spoke with recently mentioned an author called Ramit Sethi, who I have encountered a couple of times in the past. I've been watching the wonderful podcast, The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett, and Ramit appeared as a guest on one episode talking about his book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And the guy I was talking with, James Allen, whose podcast I actually appeared on recently about making a bingeable podcast, he mentioned a concept in Ramit's book, living life on offense, that idea of stopping living defensively and start really engaging in the things that you need and want to engage in. So that was driving a lot of my mindset as well. But I wound up watching a video on YouTube, and every now and again ones will pop up on my feed because I think the algorithm has worked out that I am a fella in his late 40s. So it will start showing me these videos from content creators around my age group. And a lot of them recently have started talking about how people in our age group ought to start a YouTube channel. And I was kind of like, yeah, I know, another bit of advice. I'll take that, I'll take that into consideration, but it doesn't really mean all that much to me right now. And then one came up and I was watching it, and it was talking about how making yourself and your life experiences are a good niche to start out with, that you don't need to worry so much about identifying a niche or trying to clarify it. Just start talking about you and where you're at. And while I was watching it, another realization kicked off, that all of this drive to monetize was coming from this core of fear. The fear that I needed to start improving my circumstances now, before I lost any more time. The fear that my current situation was precarious, that who knows, I might wind up losing my lease in March when it comes up for renewal. But I suddenly found myself pushing back against that I got my journal out and I wrote about how I was sick of this fear permeating my life and responding to it. And accepting that while I might not know all the ramifications of my situation, I don't know all of the ramifications of my situation. It may be as bad or as worse in some ways that I think, but in a lot of ways, it's probably a lot better than I think. And the idea came to me that how about I just start exploring some stuff for the sheer explorationness of it, just to say all of these things that I kind of wanted to do and wanted to give a go, but thought, you know what, I can't figure out my angle. I don't know how it's going to earn me some money and I need to focus on earning some money. What if I just give myself, instead of a year, let's give myself half a year. Let's give myself 6 months to just try these things out and see how I go and do the grunt work. And in those 6 episodes I'd made for the podcast, I decided I was going to do video content as well as putting them out as audio. And I found I was quite enjoying the process of editing the videos, and I'd been using Riverside to do it, and not just working out the cuts between myself and my guest and the two shots of the both of us, but also going through the AI transcript that it picks up and fixing up the things that it doesn't pick up quite right, and yeah, clarifying the things that it probably wouldn't pick up because they're place names or people names or names of shows or books or that kind of thing. Anyway, go to robf.com.au, that's Romeo, Oscar, Bravo, Foxtrot.com.au, put your name and email address in the form and click subscribe. Thank you again, and have a good time in the meantime. I forgot to do the thing. God's sake, I did it for the thumbnail and that's completely... I've got to do the thing. If it's in the thumbnail, I'm going to be putting it on like the front of the video. I've got to do the thing in the video or else what's the point? Okay, here we go. So here is the thing. Right? Look over here. Jaunt angle, chin, focus, looking ahead and engage.